And I'm going to start right into the mobile success criteria. The first one, orientation. This is foundational testing that we ask product teams to do. And the best way to do this testing is to review your application or content, best case using a mobile device, using a phone in portrait and landscape display. So load up your content or your application in portrait, step through the process, complete all your tasks, then rotate your device the long way so it's in landscape format. Really, you're looking for things like, does the layout respond to device orientation change? Does the content use the viewport well? Does it spill to the left and the right? Is it easy to read? And that's what we're really looking for here, is readable, usable content in both display modes. Pointer gestures are the second mobile item. This is a watch for at this point. If you find yourself with a mobile device, if your application sometime down the road or your content has multi-finger gestures, thinking like a 2-finger swipe or a 3-finger swipe, or 2 fingers to anchor and a 3rd finger to rotate, those are the complex gestures we're interested in. We don't see those today, but we do want to be on the lookout for them as we go forward with our application development. If you do find yourself with a complex pointer gesture, success here will mean redesigning that to be a single finger gesture, a tap or a swipe or something that users can do with just 1 finger. And also, all application tasks can be completed with these simple gestures. Like if you have anything that requires more than a 1-finger gesture, that will be something that we would flag going forward, and we would ask that gesture to be rethought. Pointer cancellation. This one is a foundational test item. It's something we largely get for free now with the way our design system is put together and with by emulating native browser behavior. But really what we're looking for is, again, using a mobile device, review and interact with your application or your content. What we'd like you to do is to press and hold a link or a button. Don't release your finger from the screen, but if you drag your finger away or outside of the button or outside of the link and take your finger off the screen, it should not activate that UI. And so that gives users a way to back out of some interaction they weren't ready to do. Yesterday, I gave an example. I am always trying to fill out small forms on my phone, and I end up pressing the submit button before I'm ready. But if I catch myself with my finger still on the screen, I'd be like, no, slide my finger over, take my finger off the submit button, and then not have to start all over or see the error screen. So this is one that you don't have to test every link and every button, but just a good sampling of 2 to 3 templates or 2 to 3 content pages. Test a couple of links, test a couple of buttons on each, and just verify that there's no quirky or unexpected behavior there. Motion actuation. This one is a watch for. We don't see any motion actuation today. And really what that means is any action that requires users to tilt, shake, or point their device. I've seen some native applications that if you're filling out a form, you can shake your device back and forth a few times to clear that form or to start over or reset what you're doing. That can't be the only way a user can interact with your application. Motion actuation tasks should also allow users to complete tasks with standard UI, like a button to reset a form if you had a shake behavior, or if you were submitting something through a complex gesture, or through like if I point my phone to submit or point it at something to take a picture. There should also be a UI, like a button or a checkbox, something that allows me to do that without having to actuate or move my device. The other thing we ask here is that motion actuation can be turned off or opted out of by the user. And I'm going to move into the cognitive success criteria next. This first one, identify input purpose. Now this one, the explanation is a little opaque to what is actually going on here. And this one will be taken care of inside the design system, but it's going to have kind of a long tail. And I'll explain why in just a second. So this one is enabling the autofill or autocomplete settings for your preferred browser when you're testing it. Included here are links to how to turn on autofill in Chrome. That should be the same for Microsoft Edge Chromium, and also for how to turn on autofill in Firefox. And you'll want to go through, if you have a multi-step form or you have a lot of data collection in your application, try filling out a form 2 or 3 times and use the same name, the same address, email, phone number, so on. Success looks like any inputs that have an autocomplete attribute should enter data for you automatically when that input receives focus. So I have an example input here. It's not a great representation, but pretend this yellow box in the lower right-hand corner is an input box. And it says your name. And if I have autocomplete added to this input correctly, when I click on this box, it will go ahead and populate the name Bill Smith for me. The benefit here is for folks who don't want to have to remember a lot of the same information over and over, their name, their home address, their email. You know, these things have a non-zero cognitive load, and with autocomplete, we can speed some of those processes up. I will say there's a caveat with this one also. WCAG 2.1 says autocomplete should be used, and so we will move forward with that in our design system. There is a consideration for public devices like in a library or at a VA medical center where you may have multiple persons who are not related or not in the same household that are filling in forms. We would want to make sure this feature was kept turned off in the browsers in that case. Label and name. This is a favorite one of the accessibility specialists, and we have already started we, the accessibility specialists, have already started kind of front running this one in the name of usability. And what we're looking for here is accessible labels on all of your buttons, buttons especially, but really any UI interaction elements like buttons or links. And you can review those fairly easily by right-clicking on a link or a button. And what you're looking for is an ARIA label or an ARIA labeled by attribute in the HTML. And success looks like an accessible label is present and it communicates exactly what's going to happen when users click this button or this link. So with the example I have down here, imagine your visible label is your submit button, and that's what it says on the page, submit. But if I look at the HTML and I see an ARIA label that says submit your data, that longer accessible label is what will get read out to screen reader users and gives additional context without having to go back and read a heading or read the paragraph before it. The user can make the same explicit understanding of what's going to happen that a sighted user would make just by glancing at the page and looking at the heading, looking at the paragraph. Status messages are the next one for cognitive consideration, and this one will also be an update in our design system. We'll specifically around our loading components. There's a few more status messages that fall under this heading, but we do a pretty good job with those. The things we're looking for to test this is we'll ask teams or anyone who is testing, go ahead and turn on a screen reader like NVDA or VoiceOver. And if you have content that uses our loading indicator, and we see this a lot where we're submitting big forms or where we are scheduling appointments or loading big data asynchronously, that one will use our loading indicator and also our error messages and forms. What we're looking for here is an announcement when the loading indicator appears on the screen, an announcement to the screen reader without the loading indicator having to take focus. So if I press the submit button on a form, for instance, and I am going to schedule an appointment, focus is still on that submit button when the loading indicator comes up, and it should tell me what's happening. It should read out to me, your appointment is being scheduled, please wait just a moment, or something like that. So we don't have to manage focus to this element. We can just simplify our UI pattern, announce it to the reader, everything will be solid. Screen readers should also announce error messages without needing keyboard focus. And We do a really good job of that right now with our forms library, so no additional action should be needed in regard to error messages.